Welcome to By the Books, the podcast helping business owners navigate the complex world of business, tax, and bookkeeping. Now, to the owner and president of Sakline, Lindsay Kline.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about sales tax. Fun stuff, right? When I was 16 years old, my aunt, who was a CPA, asked me if I would come help her accounting department because they were getting a sales tax audit and they wanted help. So I got exposure to dealing with a sales tax audit by the state of Texas very early on. And it was actually a very educational experience. I learned a lot, and I've actually used a lot of my experience from that to help my clients today to make sure in the event they are ever audited that they're ready for it. So I want to talk about that. How can you help yourself so that if you were to ever get a sales tax audit, you are ready and it's as painless as can possibly be. Those who have been through audits know it can be a painful and long and horrible process, or it can be quick and easy and over within a few hours. So you obviously want to make it as painless as possible. So I'm here to help with that. Think of an audit this way. The auditor is probably just going to assume every single thing that you have sold is subject to sales tax unless you can prove otherwise. So if you have an instance where you have not charged a customer sales tax, you need to be able to prove you shouldn't have charged sales tax. And there's numerous situations where you legitimately would not charge sales tax. You just need to be able to prove it. In some cases, and every state is different, but in some cases, a customer might have an exemption because they are reselling the product and they might have some sort of resale certificate or exemption. In that case, you need to have the documentation on file and you need to keep it so that if you're ever audited and the sales tax auditor questions why you did not charge that customer sales tax, you have that certificate or that exemption on file readily available. Also, you want to make sure when you get those certificates from your customer that the information they put on that certificate is legitimate. And usually you can go to the agency website, whatever your state sales tax collector is, that website, they typically have a way for you to go in there and verify the information that your customer has provided. Might be a sales tax number, there might actually be a resale number, whatever it is your state uses, you can get in there and verify that so that in the event you're ever audited, you can actually show the auditor A, that you have their certificate, and B, you can print out something from that website to show that you verified it and that everything was correct. You doing that alone is going to put you so far ahead of most people that get caught in a sales tax audit. And I highly recommend that those documents are saved on a cloud server. I personally use Google Drive, but there's many of them out there. Dropbox. I know Microsoft has one, OneDrive, I think. All kinds of them that are constantly backed up. It's there when you need it. Even if you don't touch it for years, you can come back to it when you need it in the event of an audit, and it's still there for you. I would highly recommend making sure you have a central place where everyone knows to save that in your organization. There are also special circumstances. I know in the state of Oklahoma, they actually have a sales tax exemption for disabled veterans. So you might have a situation like that. And there again, making sure that you get the proper documentation from that veteran. They have a card they usually give. Whatever it is that the state deems to be the evidence or the proof for that exemption, make sure you keep that on file. There's also exemptions in a lot of states for shipping out of country. So in that event, you would want to save some sort of documentation to evidence where the product was shipped. The key here is documentation. Keep good records. And that is imperative in all areas of business, not just sales tax. But if you do get caught in a sales tax audit, the more organized you are, the more well documented you are, the more that you can prove that you have verified information that's been sent to you. and that you've investigated the laws regarding sales tax in your state, because there are specific things like in the state of Texas, you don't have to charge sales tax for labor. So if you can keep that separate, the parts and the labor, then you can prove, hey, here on your website, on the Texas Comptroller website, it states that you do not have to charge sales tax for labor. Have that documentation ready, save it. When you first set up your business, this is a good idea to look at every single product and service. Try to find some sort of documentation on the agency's website that states whether or not it needs to charge sales tax. If you're not sure, maybe it's ambiguous, give them a call. Now, they may give you a different answer every time you call. I've had that happen, and I get that that's frustrating. But if you can document, I spoke to this person on this day, this is what they said. In fact, use a phone recording device. If you want to go a step further, get that phone call recorded that you can prove, I spoke to this person, this is exactly what they told me on whether or not I should charge sales tax. At the end of the day, if you're in an audit and you've got documentation and you've been consistent, in other words, don't sometimes charge sales tax for that product and then sometimes not. Always be consistent and have your backup. If you can show that you've researched it, that you've been consistent in how you've handled it, your audit is going to go so much smoother than if you're disorganized, you're unsure, you don't really have any valid backup for why you're doing it the way you're doing it. So I highly suggest document, research, and stay consistent. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and feel free to email me at info@sakline.com or visit my website at sakline.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.
By the Books is presented by Sakline. Honest, accurate bookkeeping performed on time. For more information on Sakline services or to get a hold of Lindsay, visit sakline.com or email info@sakline.com.
The information provided on this website and podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials available are for general information purposes only. Information provided by Sakline may not constitute the most up-to-date legal or other information. Listeners should contact their attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal matter and should refrain from acting on the basis of this information without first seeking legal advice from counsel in the relevant jurisdiction. Only your individual attorney can provide assurances that the information contained herein and your interpretation of it is applicable or appropriate to your particular situation.